And joining me now from Capitol Hill is California Congressman Ed Royce. He is the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. First, your reaction to the president's comments.
Well, it is a true statement that Iraqis have to be willing and able to defend themselves and all Iraqi citizens. But at the same time, we have to remember that we in the United States should be making certain that the Sunni tribes and the Kurds have the weapons that they need to actually fight ISIS. Remember, those weapons are being held in Baghdad under a lot of pressure from the neighboring Iranian regime not to allow an arming of the Kurds, not to allow those Sunni tribesmen who were defending Ramadi, right, to have the equipment they needed. And lastly, we weren't exactly up there with the airstrikes that were requested either. A little more than 2 a day average for what I saw over the last, couple of weeks of that air campaign. So there was a critique about U.S. air support as well, and we certainly don't have any forward deployed personnel to assist on making certain those airstrikes hit those ISIS targets. So there's a little bit of criticism to go around here.
And there certainly has been some frustration that I've heard up there on Capitol Hill that the administration isn't taking the fall of Ramadi seriously enough. In fact, John McCain was on the Senate floor yesterday ripping the White House spokesman, Josh Earnest. Listen to what Earnest said first and then to McCain's reaction.
We have to sort of decide what our approach to these issues is going to be. Are we going to light our hair on fire every time that there is a setback in the campaign against ISIL, or are we going to take very seriously our responsibility to evaluate those areas where we succeed?
In response to a slaughter in Ramadi, the answer seems to be, let's not set our hair on fire by the president's statesman. Where is our morality? Where is our decency? Where is our concern about these thousands of people that are being slaughtered and displaced and their lives destroyed? And we shouldn't set our hair on fire? Outrageous.
What's your reaction, and more specifically, what's your view on the way that the administration is treating the fall of Ramadi?
I think they're treating it in the same way that they're treating the setbacks in Syria in the war against ISIS right now as well. As ISIS continues to take towns and destroy antiquities, you see the Roman ruins, the Assyrian ruins, the Hellenic civilization. They're blotting that out. They're massacring civilians. The tribesmen in Ramadi who fought against ISIS, these Sunni tribesmen, their children were slaughtered. Their wives were killed. And in the face of this kind of assault, where they used 30 suicide bombings, 10 of those were as big as what we saw in Oklahoma City in the bombing that we experienced here in the United States. So that gives you some idea of what's going on. So my reaction to that is that we need more air support, closer air support, airstrikes called in, and we need to force the issue of arming the Kurds and arming the Sunni tribesmen. I know that the Shia don't like that idea, but it is necessary to use what political capital we have to get that done so that they can defend themselves.
But, Mr. Chairman, back to what the president said in that Atlantic interview, talking about the fact that we can't do it for them. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Martin Dempsey, offered a criticism of Iraqi troops in Ramadi. He said they weren't driven out of Ramadi. Instead, they drove out of Ramadi, meaning they were out of there. They fled. So there's only so much that the U.S. can do, back to the president's point, right?
Remember, hear me out on this. The Baghdad officer, Baghdad appointed officer there, retreated. Okay, he pulled out. But the Sunni tribesmen, they stayed and they fought and they died there. And the reality is that more support, forcing the issue of having a government in Baghdad that protects all of the citizens and recruits from the entire pool instead of just trying to make the Shia-leaning government, which leans to Iran right now, happy. We need to do that. And so I would make that point. We don't need U.S. brigades on the ground there. What we do need to do is exert our considerable influence and get the weapons to the Kurds and Sunni tribesmen that they need. And that's a serious issue. Yes.
So you don't think that there should be U.S. troops? There's a lot of talk suddenly about 10,000 U.S. troops on the ground in Iraq. Lindsey Graham and others have been saying that for some time. You disagree?
I think what you need on the ground, you need, our commandos carried out that operation the other day in Syria to take out their emir of oil and gas, basically. Those kinds of operations you can do. You need some forward deployed spotters, special ops, in order to call in airstrikes so that the airstrikes can be effective, so that you can actually hit the ISIS targets. Those are the kinds of things you can do. You don't need brigades on the ground. What you do need is you've got an army of 180,000 Kurds that have been trying for months and months and months to get the weaponry, the artillery, the mortars, the anti-tank missiles that have not been given to them in sufficient numbers to allow them to defend that 600-mile front up there against ISIS. And you've got the same problem with respect to the Sunni tribes that are fighting ISIS. So we need an overall strategy here that's also going to give them the air support. That's what we should be doing.
All right. Well, we're obviously going to be continuing this conversation. Thank you very much, Ed Royce, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee.
Thank you.